There is a floor in Orbital Station Keth that smells like recycled air and old paper, and I have spent 11 years of my life behind Windows 7 of that floor stamping cards. The direction registry is older than most of the species that use it. The compact built it during the consolidation as a sorting mechanism, a way to manage flow across 1,000 orbital lanes without collision or conflict. You came to the floor with your documentation. You stood in line. A classification officer reviewed your lineage file, your housing tier, your accumulated social weight, and a small amber light on the desk either went up or went down. If it went up, you received an upward stamp, access to the ascending lanes, the upper-tier stations, the better contracts, the eligible match registries. If it went down, you were directed, politely, to Gate 7 and the descending lanes. The system had no malice in it. That was the part that used to keep me awake. I processed 400 cards on a good day. I learned not to read the names. Names slowed you down. You read the lineage tier, the housing code, the file flags, and you stamped. The light told you which way. You trusted the light. I trusted the light for 11 years. Vethris Ale Sorun came to Windows 7 on a Tuesday in the 32nd week, 12 years after her first downward stamp. She was there to file a variance appeal, her third. The compact allowed 3. After the third denial, the classification became permanent record. She set her documentation on the ledge, the way people do when they've done it many times before, neatly, without hope. The neatness was the thing I noticed first, not the resignation, which I was used to, but the care. She had rust auburn skin and a short dark coil of hair, and pale amber eyes that looked directly at me rather than at the file, which was unusual. Most people were trying to find the flaw in their own documentation. She wasn't looking for a flaw. She had already accepted that there wasn't one. She was waiting to be processed. I looked at the file. Third line heir of House Sorun, Vethrani succession. First downward stamp issued 12 years prior. Lineage weight shortfall following a contested inheritance decision. 2 subsequent appeals, both denied. Match registry. Her house had removed her name in the first year. 12 years. They had given her the stamp when she was 21. I looked up. "What's your name?" I said. She blinked. The slight adjustment of someone recalibrating to an unexpected question. "It's in the file," she said. Not unkindly, just factual. "I know," I said. "I'm asking you." She looked at me the way people look at something they're not sure they've read correctly. Then, Vethris. Vethris Ale Sorun. I wrote it in the daily log, not the case number, her name. I had never once written a name in the daily log before. I wrote Vethris Ale Sorun, in the line where the case number should have been, and I routed her variance file to the secondary review desk instead of the standard denial channel. It wasn't much. It bought 6 weeks. I brought her a second chair the following Tuesday. The appeals waiting area had 1 chair per applicant. I carried one out from the break room so she didn't have to stand in the doorway holding her cup. She said, "You don't have to do that." "It's a chair," I said. She sat down. Over the next 6 weeks, I learned that she had a degree in orbital infrastructure design she couldn't use, because downward classified persons were ineligible for infrastructure contracts above level 3. I learned she had been in the Tier 4 transient residential block for 9 years because her house's withdrawal meant she had no co-signed housing claim. I learned she read the appeals board postings every morning at 6, before the floor opened, standing in the corridor with a paper cup from the dispenser, reading a list that never changed. She never complained about any of it. She talked about infrastructure work the way someone talks about a place they'd like to visit, carefully, precisely, with real knowledge and no bitterness, as if the wanting itself was enough to keep intact. The amber light on my desk measured lineage weight, housing tier, accumulated social score. It had never been designed to measure the kind of things she carried in the way she talked about that work, and it showed no evidence of caring that it couldn't. Registry Inspector Vorel Das called me into his office on the 41st day. He was a careful man, the kind of careful that looks like thoroughness from a distance and looks like something else up close. He had pulled my daily log and noticed the name written where the case number should have been. He told me that classification integrity guidelines prohibited personal familiarity with applicants during open variance proceedings. He told me the routing to secondary review, while technically permissible, had been flagged as potentially non-procedural. He told me, with the particular gentleness of someone who considers themselves to be doing you a favor, that my upward assignment was under final review, and any irregularity could delay or void it. I had waited 11 years for that assignment. My mother had been downward. My father had been downward. I had worked the registry floor since I was 22, specifically to break that pattern. The upward assignment was the one direction I had always been certain was mine. I thanked Inspector Das for the information. I went back to window 7. At the end of the day, I wrote Vethris Ale Sorun in the notes column of the log, for no procedural reason at all. The variance appeal came back denied. 6 weeks of secondary review, a senior classification signature, and the outcome was identical to the previous 2. She came to window 7 to receive the denial in person, third strike protocol. Her original stamp had been issued at window 3, but she had been coming to window 7, and neither of us had said anything about it. I read the denial language exactly as written. She listened with her hands flat on the ledge and her eyes steady on mine. When I finished, she said, "Thank you for the chair." "The secondary review took longer than it should have," I said. "I'm sorry it didn't change the outcome." She shook her head. "You wrote my name down. Nobody had done that in a long time." She picked up her documentation and turned toward gate 7. My upward assignment arrived the following morning. The amber light went up and held, and the notification printed in triplicate, 11 years of early mornings and case numbers, and a chair carried out of a break room and a name written where a case number should have been. And there it was. I held the form for a while. I thought about the light that had no malice in it, and what that meant, and whether the absence of malice was the same as the absence of a problem. I walked to window 7. I stamped the assignment form. Then I pushed it back through the slot unsigned. I picked up the daily log, wrote Vethris Ale Sorun in the name column one last time, and walked to gate 7. She was there, 6 in the morning, paper cup from the dispenser, reading the appeals board postings out of habit even though her name was no longer on them. She turned when she heard me. She looked at the log. She looked at me. "You're assigned upward," she said. "I was," I said. "Why are you at gate 7? I held out the log, open to the page with her name at the top of the column. I said her name back to her. Vethris Ale Sorun, just that, the way she had given it to me the first Tuesday, so she would know I still had it right. She looked at the page for a long time. When she looked up, her pale amber eyes were wet at the edges but composed, the way someone is composed when something lands that they were not prepared to receive. "The downward lanes are worse than you think," she said quietly. "I know," I said. "You've never been down there." "No," I said, "but I know which way I'm going." She was quiet for a moment. Then she took the log from my hands and wrote her own name again, on the line directly below mine. Not a signature, not a claim, just her name, written freely, in the same column where a case number had never managed to stick. We stood at gate 7 while the floor filled up around us, and the amber light behind window 7 went on sorting everyone else, up and down as it always had, without malice, without care, without any particular interest in what it couldn't measure. I didn't look back at it.